don't know why I came back from a trip. I just feel rusty. I always feel rusty.
Where'd you guys get married?
Cades Cove. You know where that's at?
I can ask in a minute.
It's outside of Gatlinburg.
Okay.
It's like, you go to Gatlinburg, it's like 40 minutes east of like downtown Gatlinburg.
That's beautiful.
It's beautiful out there. Yeah. Cades
Ugly
Cove.
this time of year. Trash.
Yeah, shit. I loved it, man. I love, man.
That's so pretty.
It was pretty. It was perfect time of year to get married.
All these colors.
I know. Dude, we knocked it out of the park. It was like 60 degrees Friday during our ceremony, dude. It was just like my family and her family. And my best friend, he officiated it, and it was just fucking perfect.
That's amazing.
Like, it was, yeah. I mean, we couldn't ask for a better time. So
You lucked out.
I did luck out, man.
Favored by the gods. Must be nice.
The gods are definitely looking out for me. They test me quite a bit, that's for sure. But
Coming out ahead.
That's fair.
you just gotta live with honor, man.
That's right.
That's the code.
That's right. No more. I'll figure that out one of these days.
Well, we'll help each other. I got you, man. I got you.
You get your work cut out for you then, bro.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Take one.
Shake it out.
I
Shake
got a
it
crick in my neck too.
You get this massage table right yonder.
I know. I need to talk to Jesse, dude.
Jesse,
Fix
what's
my
up?
back real quick. I like your truck, by the way, man.
Thank you. It's a 2026.
He's feeling jelly right now.
Nice.
Got it in the future.
2026?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I order way in advance. Is he that gullible the whole time?
I'm really like, dude, I wouldn't know anything about ordering cars years in advance, so that may be the case.
They don't even have that one made yet.
It's a 2007. I just keep it clean. All right?
Gotcha.
Dude,
Gotcha.
So I'm driving that right now. I wrecked my truck a few weeks ago.
Good engines, man.
I ran it.
What'd you do?
I fucking on the way here, just I'm half a mile away. On the way here, like 4:45 in the morning, this car was pulling out the stop sign up here. Never cars there. So I'm like doing my morning, like, yeah, just barreling over here. And I just cut it too soon. I fucking nailed this car. And like, it didn't mess up the body of my truck because it's like, you know, I got to lift
truck.
Yeah, I got to lift it 2,500 on 37s, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a big ass diesel, but the power steering is completely jacked. And then, of course, they ran into the issue of, you know, the strike going on. So they weren't able to find parts, but supposedly it comes in today.
Okay.
And my mechanic, he was in the unit next to this one. And he moved to the building over because they got a bigger space and he's taking care of me. But
Nice.
yeah, supposedly the part's in today. So I should have my truck tomorrow or the next day. And I'm ready for it, man. I miss my fucking truck.
It's so funny. You have to drive anything else but your own truck. It's miserable, is it not?
No, it's just like, I don't have the space.
No space.
You know,
I feel like everybody's on top of me.
I can't tailgate people, so I can't look over them.
Yeah, I can't see over
You know, I
anybody.
gotta like keep a distance.
Yep,
Like,
yep.
what the hell? So,
Yep.
anyways.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. I get it.
Big truck problems, baby.
Big truck,
Big truck problems.
Big trucks are the best.
They are.
All right, ready to roll?
Yep.
Born ready.
All right. What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. As always, we got my man, Logan Hyder of Cinema 83 LLC in the house. Pressing the buttons, changing the volumes.
What is up?
There was
Thank you,
no-
Nick. No guest has ever.
I was going to say, are you going to like put some
Thank
applause
you.
in there or something? You don't have like a cue for it?
We do. It's in there somewhere. Oh, not that one.
It's not.
It's been a while. It's been a while since we've
That's
done
not
that.
what you want to follow your name,
No,
brother.
it's not.
Oh, that's funny.
But hello, I'm here.
Yeah, what's up, buddy?
Hello.
And we have a guest for you today by the name of Mr. Nick Britt. Welcome. Good to have you. Good to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, Nick caught my attention recently. We launched the podcast with Cassie, and which is a very powerful one.
Mm-hmm.
Wild story. Honestly, probably has as many views as every episode put together in one, which is pretty
Rightly
nuts.
so.
Rightly, yeah, exactly. And Nick reached out and he gave me a very nice compliment. He was like, "Dude, just the way you handled it, I mean, you've got a gift. You're talented." And I was like, "Man, that means a lot. That was a huge deal."
I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh, go for
Am
it.
I allowed to interrupt you anytime
Dude,
I want?
you're the guest. You can interrupt.
Oh, that's
me.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to skip past that part because it literally was one of those things where, I've known Cassie since the Hot Box days. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I was actually a trainer there, and before Cassie even worked there. So she was taking the classes and stuff. So I've known her for a minute, and I had noticed that she'd ghosted off of social media for a while, and I was like, I wonder where she went. And then she came back and was constantly kind of hiding herself, which was different. And so somebody had actually sent me a text and said, and we had been talking about her just a couple days prior. Been like, whatever happened to Cassie? Where'd she go? And then somebody said, Nick, you got to see this podcast. It's about Cassie. I clicked on it, you know, started driving to where I was going to. And then I was late for like 3 appointments that day because every time I pulled into where I was supposed to be going, I could not detach from the podcast. And it was so intense because I didn't know where it was going, right? First of all, I had no clue where it was going, which was really cool because it was, you know, there was a lot of backstory to it. And the way that you just kept it going. Then when it finally got into the meat and potatoes of the whole conversation, I was like sitting in my truck just shaking. Like, how did this happen? How did I not know about this? And it would get really intense. And I was like, I don't know that I'm cut out for this. And we'll skip to, you know, my dad self-inflicted and passed away from it. So there was a lot of like correlations. I was like, I don't know that I'm ready for these triggers. But the way that you had the interview going, it was like, it never got too intense to where it was so graphic that it was unbearable. And at the same time, it never slept. Like you never were just like, okay, I want to fast forward these 10 seconds or whatever. So that's why I felt the need to reach out and tell you, like, it was just a flawless interview. Honestly, I think that someday it's going to gain more traction at some point and it'll take you even more places than you are right now because it was that good. That's just my opinion.
I mean, that is fascinating. That is awesome. Hell yeah. What a review. Yes. Thanks, Nick.
It's gnarly.
Yeah, man, I don't even know what to say to that, but that's fucking awesome feedback.
Everything about that is exactly what we shoot for. And that's, you know, yeah. I definitely, for me and for us together as a group, that's exactly what we always want to hear.
Yeah, so
exactly right there.
Thank you for
well
that,
done.
man.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well,
oh yeah.
There it is. Yeah, that's for you. That's for you.
There we go.
That's good.
But yeah, so obviously that's what kind of bridged us meeting each other. And, you know, I clicked on your profile and I saw you have a lot of different stuff going on. And I was like, dude, just tell me about what you got going on. And you gave me this laundry list of things that you do. And you said, you know,
stripper.
Stripper. That's the main one.
I didn't know if you was going to bring that one up.
Cabana boy. Hey.
And, you know, and I was like, dude, this guy seems pretty interesting, you know, because you said, I'm just trying to get by doing what I love. And I was like, fucking hit the nail on the head. And so, yeah, here you are. I was like, dude, come on the podcast. And now we're here and it is time.
And I don't mind if you throw this whole thing away. It's quite all right.
It's not going to happen.
If the episode ends up in archives, I get it, bro.
It's okay. We yet had to do that.
Never.
Okay, well, so first time for everything?
Nope, it's not happening. I will not allow it. I mean, I guess, you know, several hundred or thousands of episodes down the road.
Maybe there'll be one.
It might be one you toss.
There was one.
There might be somebody that pisses me off right before their launch of their episode, and I'm just like, you know, screw it.
There actually was one that we had to scrap, but just one in 65.
Shit, I'm gonna have to like look back at that.
You know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna say.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm curious. We won't talk about it.
I'll tell
We'll
you.
tell you later.
Right, I'll tell you after. It's archived. It's actually like deleted. But anyways, Nick.
Yeah.
Briefly, just tell us about what you do right now, like what all you got going on. Don't go into too much detail, and then we're going to take it back, and we'll bridge back into those things later on.
So I'm a stripper. No, okay. So what I really do, I do performance enhancement most of my time. So I started with personal training, and now I call it performance enhancement because it's not a lot of. I train some athletes, I train some people that are couch potatoes, and then I train some people who I think they only hire me so that they can say they have a trainer. I do that in the mornings, and then I have some private clients. I teach jiu-jitsu too. I'm a brown belt with under Sean Hammonds. And once you get to that level, you're kind of allowed to branch out and teach people his curriculum. So I do that. I'm a Tennessee State firearms instructor, so I play the pew pew games quite a bit. If it's warm enough, I'm a dive master. You know, make a couple tips, making sure people don't drown. I was in a band. I'm still in a band. I release music. Which is weird that I say that one last now. That used to be the primary thing. Like, that's all I ever thought I was going to be was a musician. Yeah. And now I'm like, wait, there's like 6 things. What was the 6th one? I was like, oh yeah, that's right. There's a guitar. Yeah. But that's, I think that's the majority of it. I'm working on a nonprofit. And I think that's the one that's consuming me the most right now and taking up most of renting, the most space in my head.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about all these things in more detail and what got you there.
Yep.
Because obviously those are very different things.
Yeah.
You know, so it's going to be interesting to hear like the journey to each of those. But first, let's take it back. Cool. You know, let's get your backstory. where you're from, where you grew up, a little bit about like your family, if you'd like, and like what, and then we'll get into where you're at now.
Cool.
So.
I'm from Farmington, New Mexico, actually. Most people don't know anybody from New Mexico. That's the first thing I hear when I say, I'm from New Mexico. It's like, oh, that's so cool. And then I'm like, orale. And that's about all the extent of my Spanish, but whatever. They're like, what's it like? And it's like, have you seen Breaking Bad? It's like Breaking Bad, I say.
For real?
Yeah. It's pretty bad. I mean, it's not, I've never seen anybody chopped up or put in a bathtub, to be dissolved, but it's kind of a gnarly state. There's a lot of space between people, and I think that's kind of what made me the way I am. Is that you have to have an imagination. There wasn't especially in Farmington, New Mexico. It's a small population right on the Colorado border, 5,400 feet elevation, so kind of high desert. There's no nightlife. There's no. I don't know that there, in fact, I know for a fact there was no jujitsu back then. There might have been a karate studio or something, but you didn't have access to being a gymnast and all these other things being in a small town like that. So you kind of had to improvise, create your own things. And I was a middle child. I had an older sister and a younger sister. And that didn't really give me the ability to have brothers that wanted to be like, let's go play baseball, let's play football. And I definitely couldn't play Barbies or do makeup. So it was like I was constantly trying to keep my hands busy doing other things, just random things. I don't think my parents knew where I was most of the time because I was out trying to invent or
just
whatever.
Out in the desert
doing
wandering.
Whatever. Exactly right. And that's a true thing. Like if I could Google Maps it for you right now, I could show you that our house was like if you go out my back door and walk about 100 feet, there's nothing but open space until the Colorado border. And literally you go down these cliffs. So I was like big into rappelling and rock climbing back then, and got used to get in trouble because that's what my friends and I would do when we'd go sneak out. We'd go rock climb, or we'd go down, we'd find the tallest building in town and like rappel down it and climb it, like just weird stuff like that. So, archery was big to me back then. I loved guns right off the bat. And I think that's probably what led to the firearms thing later, was that I loved guns when I was young, and it was different. It's not like living in Nashville where you can't go shoot. It was, you go out the backyard and you can go shoot.
Yeah, because nothing's there.
Just an open space.
Yeah. And when your family's rooted in it and you're kind of a country boy and it's the real West, you get to shoot. So
nice.
I always had that.
How long were you there?
Until 2009, till I came to Nashville. Because I went to college in the southern part of the state, which is a little bit warmer and more of what people expect of New Mexico to be like the desert. And I went to school there for a little while. I'll back it up back to Farmington, New Mexico, though. But my mom was she was a singer in the Olympic choir. So she went to Germany to sing in Munich and was always just like this amazing vocalist. And that's how music started.
That's
so
interesting.
I was like, yeah.
That's cool.
That was a thing. What's funny is I had posted a story about it recently on Facebook, and somebody was like, you know what, my granddad or my uncle was a director for that choir that went to Munich, and she sent me a picture, and sure enough, I'm like looking at it and I could see my mom. I was like, that's crazy. My mom didn't even have this photo. So we had it blown up and sent to her. And
that's awesome.
That's right.
I'm not sure if she cried or not. That was the goal. It was still cool. It was cool to know.
Crying there now, Mom.
I don't know that we ever really believed her the whole time. We're like, sure you were, Mom.
Yeah, okay.
Olympic choir.
Right.
Yeah, you were.
Cool.
And we said, but this woman does look like you. Okay, cool. But so all my life was like, right into... There was never baseball. There was no football for me. There was nothing like that, but it was like piano lessons. And I hated it. Let's get that, clear that up right now. I don't want anybody watching this thinking, I can't picture that guy playing piano. There's a reason. I do. If I sit behind a piano, it's not something good. Now, I did end up buying a piano and sticking it in my living room for a few years, but I'm not good at it. I hated it. Eventually, I got into guitar, and I ended up being like... it's a small town, so there's not a whole lot of musical talent. So basically every other Sunday or something, the church would be like, hey, do you want to sing this song? I guess I will. And so either my sisters, I've got a really talented singer sister, we'd go perform, or I'd get one of my buddies to perform. But I always started building these little praise bands when I was starting in junior high, no kidding. Yeah. And that kind of made me a target through the rest of school because everybody else was doing cool things, and I was this really skinny, short nerd who wanted to be in praise bands.
I mean, it's definitely a little different than
That's
everything.
the womp womp. You know what I mean? Like, it was not the cool thing.
Yeah.
I think I was cute though. So then I still had like some friends. Like, you know, I always was interested in girls. Like I've always just been like, oh my God, I love girls. Like they're so cool to get attention, and I'm playing this guitar, and hey, cool, people will talk to you. But
So they dug that a little bit.
went into high school, and it started getting where I was like picked on, like a lot. And not kind of like picked on like, haha, you're skinny, you're a loser. It was like, I remember one time I was in a video journalism class, which is another one of my favorite things to do, is like make videos, edit videos. But I was sitting in video journalism. There was this guy who is, I can still picture him. I don't know where he is anymore. I wish I did. But
Put that brown belt on him.
Put the brown belt right on him. But you know what? We'll get to that. But yeah, I remember sitting there, and he just didn't like me. Because I was always picked on. I think I had to like laugh a lot, and and be sarcastic quite a bit. And I'm just sitting there in class. Next thing I know, he took a math book behind me and just smashed it down on my head and knocked me out. Damn. I went face down on the desk. When
knocked you out cold?
Knocked me out cold.
How old were you?
I was a sophomore in high school.
God bless.
And he was a senior, and trench coat dude, like the black trench coat back before Columbine. So it was, but he smelled like cigarettes all the time. I don't know what was going on in his life. And so that's why I don't really know. I don't know why he took his anger out on me, but he did.
You try to show him some compassion,
Dude, I was just trying to be funny all the time. And it wasn't even directed at him. I wasn't even talking to him. I think he just got fed up with me being like the center of attention, because I was like constantly just trying to get attention. Maybe to a toxic trait. Who knows? I was compensating for the fact that I was, constantly getting picked on. So anyway, I did wake up, and this guy, Jim Inhosa, he's a stocky little Mexican dude. He had a twin brother, and I woke up, and he was pounding on this guy. And that was the only person standing up for me. And I remember just being like, to this day, I always think about that. That was the only guy that stood up for me. I kept him in the corner, and I woke up, and of course, I realized what's happening. Everybody's staring at me funny, and I got this headache. I just start crying. So then everybody remembers the fact that I got knocked out, and I was crying. You know what I mean? I was like, that's great. This is good for my career.
Yes.
I'm so cool.
This is going to make me picked on a lot less.
So
now they know how tough I am.
Yeah.
Speaking about combat real quick, I've heard that is a reaction to being knocked out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've seen it happen a lot of times, and people, it's an emotional thing. Even in a regular fight, I'll watch people fight, and they'll cry, and then they'll be best friends with the dude that they're fighting. But there's a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
I don't know, or maybe that's just my excuse for the fact.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I've heard that when you're knocked unconscious like that, when you come to, it's emotional.
Totally can.
Yeah.
So that was that year. And about the next year, I got asked to play in the school auditorium, and I was like playing this song on guitar, and the next thing I know, and I think it's beautiful, I'm on this 12 string that my mom gave me, and I'm like, yeah, man, this is so pretty. Look how good I am. And they start, like, I just hear the whole side of this auditorium start chanting this other guy's name, like, who was a guitarist and who played like Pink Floyd or was whatever was cool at that time. He could play that. So I just remember like I'm having this moment where I'm like in it, and they start chanting this other dude's name, like the whole side of the auditorium. And I was just like, man, life sucks. Yeah, this sucks,
That's
man.
a bummer.
It was a bummer. And it kind of went on like that. Later that summer, I got selected to be a guitarist for this Christian choir that toured like the U.S. and then went to Europe and Africa. So I think that's kind of where things changed for me. While I was gone, I grew like 4 or 5 inches taller, put on a little bit of weight. Some chicks bleached my hair while we were gone. I think I had like 1 eyebrow before we left, and I came back and had like 2 because they taught me how to tweeze. Yeah. I came back and I was just like a little bit cooler. Yeah. So then one of my worst enemies ended up becoming my best friends. And I was like, I think music is what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel good here.
Yeah.
It became like, it was like I found my phone booth. You know what I mean? I came in as the nerd Clark Kent, and then found the phone booth, which was music or this touring or whatever it was, whether it was the bus or, being in Africa, telling people I was just in Europe. I plug in a guitar, I play electric now, whatever it was. I came back feeling like Superman.
Yeah. So music was the shift. Like you had the music always, but
always had it.
There was that shift there.
It never did anything for me until then. Yeah.
And then you're like, dude, I'm glad I stuck with this.
Like, I got this now. Now what, everybody?
Look at me now. I'm about to be a rock star.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what happened. Is I was like, okay, well, I'm ahead of everybody now, so I'm going to be a rock star. And so I kept putting bands together, and then everybody graduated high school, and I was like, now what am I going to do? What do you do to be a rock star?
Yeah.
So I went to a state school, the Mexico State University, which at the time was like ranked the #2 party school in the country because it was on the Mexican border. Like literally on Tuesdays and Saturdays, you pay $10, you cross the border, you didn't need passports, and you drink till you drown. So I was down there, and I was still a virgin, never had a sip of alcohol, never smoked pot, never did anything.
I want to jump in real quick about that.
Yeah, please.
Just real quick about before we go too far, the faith and the guns thing.
Yeah.
I would just love to hear like why those were two super entrenched things. Like you mentioned your mom was a musician.
I think I was just raised in, probably because I was raised in church. You know, I got baptized the first time when I was like 5 years old because that's what you do, you know?
Yeah.
7
I never explored
yeah,
it.
I got you.
Yeah, I never really explored it. And that's, I think later in my life, it's one of the things about my faith. And I love anybody who has any faith, period. I don't care what it is that you practice. As long as it's peaceful, I applaud you. Do your thing. I won't push mine on you ever. If you want to know what mine is, I'll tell you what I've come to conclude. But
I mean, that's been a heavy subject of like our podcast, just with my beliefs. You know,
oh, sure. Well, and especially right now, you see these wars going on, and they're killing in the name of God.
Yeah,
right. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Where did I lose that part about?
Yes.
Because that's not the guy that I thought that I was worshiping.
Yeah, ain't that a fucking fact,
It's not this person I want to really serve either.
Yeah.
Dude,
like,
yes.
Please don't ask me to kill for the expansion of territory or for one way to win. But no, if it comes to, you know, you don't like my religion, so you're going to threaten to kill me or my family or my friends around me. That's where the guns come in.
That's what you do.
And it truly is for me. And like you saw when we got here, you gave me this badass rash guard, which I got stoked because I was like, oh man, I always see these t-shirts for these guys and you have rash guards. That's amazing. But you're like, hey, try this on. And I'm like pulling up my shirt. I'm like, oh man, I'm packing. I hope he doesn't mind. But I pack everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what
same.
I mean? And it's completely law abiding, and being a handgun instructor, I don't feel like it's my duty, like I'm here to protect people, but I am here to protect people.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like one of my biggest purposes is I want to be a safe person for everybody. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's something I relate with. I mean, that's all I care about is protecting my family. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, I'm never going to go out and do harm to others.
Right.
Especially for anybody else. But if you're going to, threaten my family, like, that's when it's time.
Game on.
Yeah, that's game on for sure. And that's what a hero is. Heroes protect the ones they love.
And even third party, you see people being bullied all the time. Like when I got knocked out in the gym and Hosa was there to help. You know what I mean? Like, what would have happened if he wasn't there? Would it have continued? Would he have waited for me to wake up? And done? Who knows? But I get a nudge, which I feel like is my creator being like, hey, be aware, look around. If you see the little guy, that doesn't mean I have to go in and pop somebody and break it up. I was always told, I watched this guy, Brandon Hendricks, when I was in college. Big old black guy, loved him. And I say big old black guy, I'm from New Mexico. There's not a lot of them, you know what I mean? And so I see this guy and I'm just like, what a beautiful specimen. And I hear this commotion going on outside my apartment. I look over the third floor and these guys are just beating the hell out of each other. These two white boys, just smashing. And all of a sudden I see this Brandon Hendricks and he walks out between them. He pulls them apart. He goes, hey, stop. And the way he did it so commandingly, he's like, is this what you want to do? The guy's like, hell yeah. And he goes, is this what you want to do? Yeah, okay. Well, we're going to follow some rules and I'm in charge. And he let them fight. So every time they would roll into a car or whatever, he'd stand them back up. You still good to go? You still good? Go ahead.
That's awesome. Actually.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty badass.
He allowed these guys to take out their frustrations on each other, but also made sure that everybody was going to be okay.
Yeah.
At the end, one guy had taken a pretty bad beating, and he finally stopped it. He said, you've had enough. At that point, I realized the strongest man in any fight is the person breaking him up. You know what I mean? If you have the balls to be able to step in front of anybody and be like, hey, I don't know what the squabble is here, and I'm not saying you're right. I'm not saying you're right. But we're gonna settle this in a way that both people agree upon.
Without a doubt.
Dude, it moved me. And he was a martial artist. So I was like, man, I think I kind of want to do that.
I was about to say had to know where that came in.
Huge. And I tell him all the time on Facebook. He did the thing like where he commented when I think I got my purple or brown belt. He had commented on Facebook and he's just like, bro, it's amazing to see you grow as a martial artist. And I'm like, Brandon, I became a martial artist because of the way you acted that day. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted that. And now the only difference is I want that for bigger feuds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd like to I can walk into a room and I don't mean, you know what it's like, right?
Yeah.
You fight with your hands. You
Yeah.
know what you're capable of. Jiu-jitsu is something different, and not something different from that. It's different than what a lot of people think about it. They think about it like karate or taekwondo, which I'm not talking trash about.
Yeah.
But just as you know, your hands work in combat.
Exactly.
Jiu-jitsu works in combat.
Yes.
And it's not a superpower, but it changes your brain completely. So all the social anxiety that I used to have, which I still get it sometimes when I'm around a bunch of drunks, like I don't want to be here because something's going to pop off. I don't want this to be my responsibility. I don't like being here. But there's something about jiu-jitsu when you've spent 5 hours a week, you know, fighting people that are twice your size that should be able to dominate you really easily when they get on top. If they throw you to the ground and suddenly you're on their back choking them.
Yeah.
Or, hey, look, I've got your arm and it's mine now. Or, oh, look, you're on top of me and I've just thrown my legs around your throat and you're going to sleep. There's something about that to me that is just incredibly addictive. I don't have to feel like the underdog anymore where I have to worry about who's in the room. And I want to be able to use that not just for myself, but when you see people just getting pounded and everybody else is pulling out their phones and you're like, this needs to stop, but everybody's afraid. And even the cops these days with no training. And so they resort to their firearm as fast as they can and somebody gets shot and it's usually the wrong guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that anymore. I don't want to be part of that. And I would like to, just training and just watching Sean, his methodology. It's not all about fancy, flashy stuff. It's about pressure and really.
Yeah, that's awesome too. And it teaches you that it instills that confidence you're talking about. And it also, but not in like a cocky way.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna go out and beat everybody's ass.
Jiu-jitsu
you're
means
more controlled and disciplined with
the
it.
gentle art.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
If you're walking around like, oh, I'm a master at the gentle art, like it just sounds
Like, yo, chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something that as the business progresses and like I'm able to delegate some things to other people. I want to get back into jiu-jitsu.
Oh, you got mat space. I already looked. You got mat space.
I already know, man.
This place is set up for it.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And but with that, I want to get my daughter in jiu-jitsu. One, to instill that confidence in her from a very early age, but it's something I can grow with her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, she'll grow and like, I can practice stuff with her and stuff like that.
Right.
I think it'd be a beautiful thing, but she's going to have such a head start as a woman, knowing that early on.
Gotta have it. Well, and that's the thing with girls. You don't want to teach your girl how to go punch a dude and try to get in a fight with a guy because she's more than likely going to win. I mean, punches, obviously, they're going to work. Kicks, elbows, that's all good stuff. But to try to go toe-to-toe with the dude for a while, it's not going to last. Yeah. There's some stuff with jiu-jitsu. There's girls, out at Madison, Nicole, some of these girls from our gym, I've literally, even as a purple and an early brown belt, I would show up to the class and be like, today I'm fighting her like a man because she has been messing me up for 6 years. I'm taking it to her today. I'm getting my victory.
Yeah.
And they still destroy me.
Have you heard of Bradley Martin talking about how he's 260? And he keeps picking fights with boxers now. Like had an interview with Devin Haney, and he was asking him like if he thinks he could beat him in a street fight, and his whole thing is I'm 260. That's his whole thing.
Dude.
And everybody that knows anything about
he's
jiu-jitsu,
some influencer guy that's just jacked, and he thinks because of that.
He's a giant man, but like he knows nothing about jiu-jitsu.
We got a guy named Jeremy. He's 320. He's a pro MMA fighter. He's and I watch people choke him. And
did you say he's 320?
320. And we got a couple 300s. Like
that's a big boy.
And that's the thing is it's not so much about their size. It's who knows the equation. What do you do with a guy that size?
Yeah.
Right. He thinks he's just going to lay on him.
Yeah, and that's great. But unless the other person knows how to get out from under you when you're laying on him.
And use your weight against you.
And uses your weight against you or just stays on the ground and lays on their back and throws their legs up. I'm not sitting here trying to be like, I don't want to walk out of here and some 300-pounder be like, what'd you say, Nick? I'll be like, I'm sorry. I don't want to fight. But it'll work.
Yeah. No, and there's a benefit to that size if you know how to use it.
Right. Yeah,
correct.
And if you got the expertise, then you're a fucking lethal weapon.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's not all that matters.
Just being like, I'm 260. I'll fight over, I guess.
ToneUpPersonalTraining.com. If you're looking to lose weight, build muscle, if you want to book me for private jiu-jitsu lessons, bc-tac.com. If you want to get a concealed carry permit, work on tactical rifle, interested in 3-gun shooting, just have some guns laying around the house and you don't know what to do with them, look that one up. You can book me there as well. If you need music while you're doing any of that stuff, my band is called Black Market Research. It's out there everywhere. I think that's it. And then ToneUp Personal Training will have a link really soon to my nonprofit that's I'm really excited about, called Kintsugi Kinetics. It's coming. It's coming. So Brandon Hendricks broke up that fight, and I was like, that's really cool. I want to have that kind of power, not to misuse, but to learn how to separate feuds, right? And so the goal is, and that's why Sean Hammonds is such a good person to train under, is because, he's just a world champ, Pan Am champ. He's a musician in Nashville as well, but you wouldn't know it by looking at his cauliflower ears. But,
Sean Hammonds is a legend, by the way.
He's a legend.
That's what
He's
we
a
were
true
talking
legend.
about on the break.
He started Nashville MMA here with Ed Clay.
Yeah, I know about Sean. I've heard about him from quite a few people.
Dude, and like you, like community person, like trying to give back, like constantly, he would rather sleep for 2 hours and give the rest of his time to other people than focus on his own energy. It's crazy. But anyway, so the fighting thing happened down in New Mexico State University, and I was enrolled in school for English and business administration, and I decided to start another little band down there. And this time there was it was not a Christian band, and I was underage, but we were playing in bars. And at that time I was working for Marriott, actually, while going to school. I was working 40 hours a week at Marriott. And I started this little band, and, they met me like, so what are your influences? And I was like, Third Eye Blind and Michael W. Smith, and just listed a bunch of people. They had no idea who they were. And they're like, well, we like Creed and Nickelback and all. I was like, well, I'll listen to them. Let's go. Started a band, started playing in bars. And that was my first experience with that addiction to applause, right? So the scene and having all these options. Oh, that person likes me. That's acceptance. If I do this, this person, I'm accepted by this person. And if there's one person in there who doesn't like it, that's rejection. So I'm going to try harder for that person. And I really know, I think as I look back, I'm like, that's where it all started, where my own behavior patterns became all about acceptance and rejection, which is funny. My pastor was just talking about this past weekend, but my therapist had been saying it for years, that it's constantly like, as an anxious attacher, you're looking for those people the ones that don't like you, and those are the ones that get all your energy. You're constantly trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
So people talk about that, the attachment styles, but they never really get into that. Yeah. So the anxious that's what that means.
Yeah. The anxious attachers. Yeah. There's anxious avoidance and anxious attachment. So some people will, if they run into a situation that they don't like, they just shut down to it and they pull away. Other people, like myself, if I run into a situation, I aggressively have to fix it right then and there. And if you walk away from me, I'm going to chase you, even if you're the most toxic person on the face of the planet and you're covered in red flags, but you're walking away from me, you're abandoning me. So I'm going to go ahead and clinch tighter. That's my toxic trait.
And that's something you still do?
Oh man,
you're just trying to learn how to overcome that.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be something I always will struggle with, but learn how to deal with better. And the only way to fix it really is being in healthier relationships.
Yes.
But when you have a tendency to go for the toxic ones, how do you find the healthy relationships?
So I used to be like that, but like I've found, especially over the past couple of years, I've been like,
it's because you found that hot wife.
You're right.
While we walked in here and you got a supermodel on your desk over there,
a lot of things.
and you literally said, "Yeah, she's the best thing I've ever met." I'm like, "That's the change.
Yep.
That's the change in
Truly
the person."
Is. I mean, even then, early in our relationship, I would self-sabotage things. I'd be like, "This is going to go bad."
Right.
She had so much grace and patience with me because she goes to therapy and she was like, "Joe, it's okay. It's okay to think these things." And it never was the case though. And I was like, "Wow, actually, this is going somewhere." And now here we are. And, but that healthy relationship has definitely allowed me to because it's crazy is especially doing my business and just focusing on honor and all these things I'm about. I've had a lot of people walk out of my life, and it's been I could have fought for them, but I was just fuck them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Some of them hurt, but at the same time, I'm just better off without you.
It's not paralyzing anymore at that point though, because you have this healthy person next to you where you're like, oh, I've got the support system.
Right.
Yeah, it's huge.
And because that all my other relationships are extremely healthy as well. And it's like, damn. So it's
starts attracting more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good for you. Rub it in. Keep bragging. Dude. What is this?
Now
you brought me on this show to brag about?
No, because I am offering you my friendship, and this could be a healthy thing.
Good. No, I appreciate that. That's the truth, and that really is the good thing is surrounding yourself with more, attracting more. Law of attraction. You get a little bit more of it.
Without a doubt.
But in that situation, when I was playing with that band, we started getting some opportunities to like record with the Gin Blossoms, and then we were opening for a lot of cool bands that were coming through, and then we got like...
It was just like rock music?
Yeah, it was rock music, and it started to get bigger and bigger, and it was a relatively small town, so then the bigger it got, the more notoriety we had, and then we're showing up to do record release parties in a limo, and it's packed to the gills, and I got addicted to that, Shortly thereafter, my dad, who was, my mom had divorced him when I was like 5. We didn't really have much of a relationship, but then when I'd gotten to college, it was like he started pouring it on thick. Hey man, I wished I'd been in your life more, and I just wasn't given that opportunity. And the conversations progressed, and he was constantly like, hey, you need to come up and see me. But then he started taking a turn where it was like, man, things just aren't going well for me. And, they've taken my pride and they've taken everything else from me. It just started getting sour. And I had this girlfriend at that time, and I still hadn't really drank. Maybe I drank once or something when I turned 20. And he was calling me pretty depressed, and it got progressively worse. And I remember one time he called me, and I hung up the phone with her, and I just said, I don't know why, but I just feel like he's not going to make it. Which to me, I don't even know what that meant. I hadn't dealt with much like suicide. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why something that night hit me, but I went to work 3 days later at the Marriott, and my mom called me, and she's like, hey, hon, you need to come home. I said, what's going on? She said, are you in a good spot? And I said, I'm at work. And she said, is your manager there? And I said, she is. And she said, okay, well, your dad shot himself last night. And I said, and she said, and he died. And I'm like, wait a minute. I talked to him like 3 days ago. He's finally putting effort into my life, and now you're saying he just checked out, and I lost it. Mm. So the next day, I flew home, and
he and your mom were still together at the time. Or
no, they had divorced, and so she had remarried, and my stepdad raised me, which is actually Britt. So that's why if you look online, I've got a hyphenated last name. It's Nicholas Britt-Cunningham. Britt was my stepdad who raised me from as long as I can remember. But Cunningham was how I was born, and very few people even knew that I was Cunningham. Honestly,
interesting.
So can I just ask a question about that? You were talking about the needing the acceptance and that kind of thing. Was was your father not being around? Was that part of that?
Dude, 100 excellent question. So when you go to therapy as a 40-year-old and he says, let's talk about your past. It's not about my past. These things are happening because of a current girl or a current employer or whatever. And he goes, let's go back. Let's go back further. Rewind it. What was going on? That abandonment that I have is because I never, and I can see it now, and I don't fault him. So, it's not like, I don't want to fault him and speak negatively of him, because I'm doing my own work on it. And he became what he is because of the work he did or didn't do, so I don't want to sit here and like use his memory as something that I piss on, but 100%, that's where it came from. And so it's also why I needed everybody's acceptance. It's why, and my mom, she doesn't like to own this too much, and I know she's going to watch this and be a little bit frustrated, but that's okay, because I love her to death. She's my best friend in the world. But in that period of 4 to 8 is when we do a lot of mental development, right? As children, it's like a lot happens. Well, when your mom is going through a divorce and she's also finding a new mate, a lot of her attention is where normally if she's married to a guy and they have some children, they're already like bored with each other, right? So they're spending their time with the kids. Yeah. So like, I can't wait till your dad goes to the store. I can't wait till whatever, so that we can spend time with the kids. But when you're looking for a new mate, your attention is going that direction. And so I do think that even then I was a little bit hungry for the attention. Yeah. And then next thing you know, they got married and had a daughter. So then I had an older sister and a younger sister, and a middle child is already screwed. Everybody, and that definitely played into how it went. So then that acceptance that I never got from him, it's why growing up, I was always like, okay, I want girls that are a mother figure. And I want these dudes to know how tough I am so that they'll accept me, because I never played football and I never got the I love you sport that, hey, good job, champ. Yeah. Way to run that ball into the ends. That's football, right? Yeah.
Some kind of sports ball.
Yeah, sports ball.
Something like
I never got any of that. So then it was like, I was constantly like, well, there was a song by Lit in the early 2000s where Awake on My Airplane. The last thing he says in that song, though, is he screams it to the top of his lungs. Hey, Dad, what do you think about your son now?
Yes.
And I've always thought about that, because I'm like, I've always wanted to sing that in my stepdad's face, in my real dad's face, in my uncle's face, in my employer's face. Like, what now? Like, look at what I've made myself now. Do you approve of me now? They don't even hear me. And so you have to get used to the fact that, like, I don't think they were intentionally ignoring me. I just felt that way.
You know, it's crazy because I think back at like my childhood and stuff like that. And, you know, my parents I'm very fortunate to have the parents I do. I'm so close with both of them and they support everything I do. But still, like I was picked on a lot when in my younger years, middle school, early high school, whatnot. And I think on that, like sometimes I'll think of this one person that used to fuck with me and be like, what do you think now? You know, like look at me now, you know what I'm saying?
Try it again
it's
now.
subconsciously that pops up, right? And it's just kind of crazy because I don't have nothing to prove to any of them.
Right.
But, you know, subconsciously, I'm
like
trying to prove to them, like, hey, I'm fucking crushing it, you know?
It's like a
been
chip on your
conditioned to
shoulder.
do so,
Yeah, it's a
right.
chip on the shoulder.
You know, and I do want to say, you talked about like the whole, you know, you talked about marriages they're getting bored and they're focused on the kids. And, you know, that happens all the time.
I knew you were going to jump in on that part. I knew you were.
Well, because Lydia and I are very intentional. And so like, we prioritize like a date night, you know, and stuff like that. But we talk about that. Like, hey, a lot of people say, oh, my kids are the most important thing in the world to me. My daughter is the most important, but like, she wouldn't be here without my wife. And that is, my wife's always going to be number one. And I think a lot of times people have kids and they put their spouse behind the kids.
Yeah.
But then if you do that's
dangerous.
That's what created it all. So keep dating that person, you know, and love them like you did from the beginning.
Right.
And then, you know, when you have fucking multiple kids, you're still not bored with each other. You love it, you know? And so I don't know. I just felt the need to stress the importance of that.
100%.
My mom and stepdad, and I call him dad because I mean he took care of everything. He's still to this day, you know. I call him dad. But they did a really good job. I look back at it now, and of course I was resentful. And anytime I'm in crisis, I'm like, this is my parents' fault. They didn't love me enough. But really, they did everything they possibly could. Yeah, they didn't. They included us on everything. We went on their honeymoon with them, and good Christian family. And I know people throw that around a lot, but you hear good Christian family, and then you find out they had like 13 kids in the basement, and they were all chained up. No,
like genuinely,
happens all the time.
Genuinely, my parents,
good people.
My parents, if you met them, you'd be like, they're just like Christ-like. Like they I never saw them Bible thump on anybody. They just wanted to serve people, always taking care of everybody they could. So they're good people. I kind of scrambled. But that's basically where in my story, all the progress, all the growth kind of stopped because my pops had just shot himself and I'm now in a party school confused. And I went to therapy. It wasn't like real therapy, but it was instantly, you know, they found out I'm sad, I'm struggling with this, and I'm in a band, in bars all the time. Nick, we think you should get on medication.
There it is.
There it is. Tanked, man. As soon as the medication started, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't take medication because definitely there are people out there that should. For me, being in a bar, having a father who just shot himself and not really having the proper outlets for communication, for, behavioral therapy.
What about like a support group around you at all? Did you have anything?
Friends, they were all wannabe rock stars. And we were all in the bars.
You just drink about it.
It was instant. I turned into drinking, and then I had these pills, and then I had anxiety. So what do you do for anxiety? You take Xanax.
So I was going to ask, so that's the other thing about medication. What did they put you on?
The first ones I think was probably like, honestly, it was actually Paxil, and then a CR or extended release or something. And here's the thing is that I always felt pretty good in my life. I was always kind of a quiet kid, but they started putting me on these pills, and then they'd ask me every 2 or 3 weeks, how do you feel? Well, I don't feel as good as I used to. Well, let's up the dosage. And after 6 weeks, how do you feel? I don't feel as good as I used to. Let's change to something else.
Yeah.
So then they put me on Xanax, and I don't know if you have any experience with Xanax.
That's not something to put people on.
So I've talked about it. I struggled with that before I went in the military really bad.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. Xanax fucking
makes you feel real chill for a second until it doesn't.
And then you're drinking with it, and you're a freaking
zombie.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, a zombie. So it got crazy. And honestly, that's where I just started tanking. So then it was Coke. And then next thing you know, I was like, I'm loving these pills, this Xanax. I better have some Valium too. Tell my doctor I need Valium. So I'm on this cocktail of pills all the time. And it got crazy. And then the Coke was insane. There? 22, probably about 21 to 21 is when that started.
So 20 years old, you never even drank
alcohol.
Hadn't
touched anything. Pops died within 2 months.
Wow.
I was taking everything I possibly could.
That is wow.
To a point where I remember right around my 22nd birthday, I think, my mom had driven, at this point I'd lost my job. I dropped out of school. And my mom had driven the 6 hours to come see me at Christmas, and she had a little box of gifts, and she knocked on the band house because we lived together, my bandmates and I, and she knocked on the door, and you know, the door was answered by a stripper, and where I used to be proud of that. Now I'm like, and I had nothing against strippers out there. That's not what I'm saying. It was just not it was not what I was. You know what I mean? It's not the character that I had been the rest of my life. All of a sudden, everything changed. And so she answered the door, and my mom like holds this box. And she said, "Is Nick here somewhere?" And the girl points to me on the couch, and I'm under a blanket with a couple other girls. And I said, "Hi, Mom. Nick, are you okay?" And my sinuses were so chewed up from the cocaine that I couldn't even talk to her. And she just started crying, set the box down, and drove off.
Damn.
On Christmas Day.
Dude, that broke your heart.
Dude. And at that point, I was like, what in the hell happened to me? What is this? Like, how did this happen?
That needed to happen.
It needed to happen. But I still couldn't kick it because, as you know, those pills and even the cocaine, I could stop coke when I wanted. I was smoking cigarettes, pot, drinking, all those things. Pills are something different. Pills, they want you hard.
Yeah.
So.
And those are the only, like, those kinds of medications and alcohol are the two things that will kill you if you stop taking them.
As quickly as you, yeah. So I was on that for a little while longer, and I finally was like, I got to get out of town. So I moved to LA to go stay with a friend, and I was still on all these pills and stuff, and I wanted to go just be a songwriter out there. So I entered a songwriting competition like within 3 weeks of being out there, and I won it. And this big old package that I was supposed to get, this demo deal with so-and-so, like, whatever big artist it was at the time. I don't even remember anymore. You're supposed to win all these things. It never happened. I won, but never got the earnings. Everybody else got you got this Gibson Les Paul. This person got this package. For some reason, whoever won first place, the deal fell through. And I'm like, that's me. Of course, it's me. But it was fine. Kept playing out there, established another band, still doing a lot of coke. And then I was poor. Coke is basically free when you are in LA and you're a musician and everybody else, it's just a party. You want to come out tonight? Well, you already know you're going to have whatever drugs you needed. So I did that for a little while. Music didn't work out. So I finally realized I'm going to have to move home. But I didn't want to move home yet. So I thought I'd go back to Las Cruces, back to my college town. And I only bring this up because this is where more things started to fall apart. I moved back to my college town where my bandmates, we were pretty well known, and I came back and everybody was like, "Oh, look, Nick's back from California. He was out there being a rock star and stuff." So I had this inflated ego and kind of thought I was cooler than I actually was, and still had the pills and stuff. And my guitarist and his girlfriend at that time, they had a house, and I was just shacking up with them. And then my sister had an apartment, and I was moving between the two. And my guitarist and his girlfriend got in a fight one night, and she was making fun of how he and I would always threaten, like, "I'll just take all these pills. I want to check out. I'm just going to take all these things."
Yeah.
And she goes, "Y'all are idiots. Like, you think you're so cool. You're so tough." And she went storming out the house and grabbed the bottle of pills. As she walked out, we both flip her off. We're like, "Yeah, whatever." And found her the next morning. She'd gone out to the garage. She took all my pills, sat in the car, and turned it on.
No.
The end.
Fuck.
So that was on my pills. And I'm like, really? Come on, man. Like, something's got to change. About 2 weeks later, my brother-in-law, who was one of my best friends my entire life, he OD'd. So it all just kind of collapsed around me, and I finally had to move home. I moved back in with my parents. I was like 26 years old, and at that point, what do you do? Like, all the things that you thought you were going to do and become, you didn't. And so, well, more coke. So what's meth?
And shit just kept falling apart.
What's meth? What's smoking crack? What are all these other things that I've been missing out on? I live at home with my parents. Like,
why not?
Why not? What else is there? So it just kind of spiraled, and
So you went into all those different things.
Got into all of them.
Damn.
Yeah,
So
it was terrible.
were your parents like aware?
Dude, it was one of those things where they were aware, but they were just like, keep him alive. Do whatever we got to do to keep him alive right now. We're going to figure out the rest. But they were never enablers. And it's the weirdest thing. My mom was never like a tough lover where she was like, "You're going to get your act together." Like, she was just like so compassionate all the time that it hurt me every time. I was like, I don't want to do this to her anymore. Eventually, I had started working out in California. This guy had seen me play some music, and he goes, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to help connect you to some people. You can come stay at my condo, but you're going to work out." And I was like, "No, try it, whatever." And I went down to the little gym with him and I repped a couple things and immediately just threw up because I was all coked out and all these pills. I was like, that was terrible. So 3 days later, I go back in and I try again. I'm like, I'm going to do a little less coke because that was awful. And it got better.
That was your pre-workout.
Yeah, it was my pre-workout. It did not work like C4 does. So when I got back to New Mexico, I got a gym membership and actually started to try to work out again. I was like, I'm going to actually try to work out and see what happens. Each day that I did fewer drugs, I had a better workout. And each day that I worked out well, I had a better high. So it was like, just gradually, I'm going to do a little bit less of this. And I finally got to a point where I was like, I'm off cocaine.
Hell yeah.
This gym got me off of cocaine and I didn't even realize I was doing it.
Isn't that wild?
Crazy.
And you were just lifting at this point?
Lifting.
Yeah.
Yep. Smoking pot like crazy, getting drunk everywhere. But at least I didn't want to do the cocaine because the cocaine made me weak and I didn't want to be weak anymore. And I didn't want this thing. So I finally told my doctor, I was like, look, I stopped doing coke and I'd like to get off these antidepressants if you don't mind. I'd like to know what it's like to feel like myself again. And he said, absolutely not. That's what happens. Everybody thinks they feel good because the antidepressants are working. So then everybody thinks, oh, I feel good now. Let's take them off. And then they tank. And I said, but I'm telling you, I want to come off. Can't do it. No problem. I did it myself.
Yeah, I did that. I did it 2 or 3 different times myself.
Did the self wean,
and it's not a fun time.
Oh my God, miserable.
Not a fun time.
Miserable. And I do half dosage. I wasn't able to just go cold turkey, but half doses. And then you start getting these like little lightning. You turn your head a little bit, and you get like this shock. You feel like you're walking crooked some places. You ride the mood swings. Vertigo. That's the crooked walk. Like
the vertigo.
Literally like feeling like I would walk into a room sideways.
That's like if you miss one dose too. You miss
just one
dose and you're vertigo like you're drunk.
We got to do this for 3 months or something to get it out of our system. Well, it started coming out of my system. So now I'm lifting weights, smoking pot, and drinking, which the drinking was never really like my favorite thing, but the weed was still fine, I told myself. And eventually I was done. Got it all out. Didn't take another pill. I was watching TV one time with my nephews, and at this point I'm bartending and I'm making tons of money. I'm like, okay, cool. So now I'm just drinking a little bit, smoking weed, lifting, and things are starting to fall in place. I'm gonna buy tattoos. I've got some saved money, and I go to Albuquerque to see my nephews, whose dad had OD'd, and they were watching the Indianapolis Colts versus the Tennessee Titans.
Go Titans.
And they're this commercial, and again, go sports. I knew nothing about Music City, whatever. This commercial airs and it shows this aerial view, and then it flashes down at like Hard Rock Cafe and it says Music City. And I told them, I was like, where is that? That's really pretty. They're like, oh, that's Nashville. I was like, Nashville. Get on their little laptop because there's no smartphones at that time. I'm like, cool. That's kind of a cheap apartment. I'll buy that one. So I click on it to rent it. Never been to Nashville. I said 3 months, I'm going. 3 months later, I got here. By the time I got here, it was just like, I don't want to drink anymore. Still smoked pot. Started playing music. Had a little band. We got together. Won a couple awards.
What was that band about?
Black Market Research. So that's the one like had a really good run. Really good run. Cool things happened. We got in a bad management deal that ended up ending, the run. But we're all still good friends, and we got like Musicians of the Year a couple times, Album of the Year, Best Rock Performance. There were people that would call us and be like, hey, we know that you're established with all these venues and you can play anywhere. They told us to call you. We'd really like to open for you. Nobody will book us. Can we please just come open your show? And I'd be like, well, that's fine. What's your band called? Well, we're called the Florida Georgia Line. I'm like, okay, I'll put you on this show. So we'd go. They started opening for us.
For real? That's crazy.
I swear. So I got all these.
That's crazy.
Their first like 3 shows. I've got the flyers for at my house to this day. Tyler, one of the coolest guys. When we'd go back out on the road to tour, he would tweet where we were playing, give us little shout outs so that people would show up and watch us play. Like real cool guy.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Anyway, the band went well, and then I got married. That didn't go so well for me after a couple years, and when that ended. I just was like, okay, how did I get here? What did I do wrong? And actually, when after we released one of our
what time frame was this?
This was 2016. 2015, 2016 actually is when.
That's when I moved up here.
Oh yeah, but you moved here in 2009 though.
Yeah. And so, and actually, what happened with that management deal that went sideways, I was fed up. I was fed up with the industry. I had seen how it all worked at this point. I knew all the Christian artists were cokeheads. I knew all the country artists weren't cowboys, and I knew all the
What?
yeah.
What?
I'm sorry to break your heart, brother.
I'll be damned.
And all the rock stars of that time were basically just good with computers. Like there wasn't anybody that was going out there and putting on a good show anymore. And I was discouraged because I'm like sitting there hustling with these guys that we've paid our dues. We've traveled across the country. We've done our thing. It just wasn't working out. And then our management deal went sideways. And I literally just told the guys, I was like, I'm going to take a break for a year. And I told my wife at the time, I was like, I don't know what to do anymore. How do you let go of something that you've chased that's been the only thing that you had for this long? She's like, well, if you had $1 million, money didn't matter. Wouldn't it be cool if $1 million and money didn't matter?
Yeah. What a great setup.
Yeah, this was before Nashville became such a big city, before inflation.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you were looking at the apartments, you were like, "Oh, cheap apartment." I was like,
$500.
You could tell that was a while ago.
Yeah. I look at it now; it's like 16. But I was like, I think I'd just be in the gym and I'd hang out with my friends. She goes, "You should be a personal trainer." Literally, that's what she told me, and I was like, "Okay." So I called my buddy at Hotbox who owned Hotbox, and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about being a personal trainer. Any ideas?" And he said, "Yeah, get your certification. You've got a job." So I got certified and got a job, and that's how it started with the athleticism. I got married, and as soon as I got married, I was at a party with a bunch of dudes that looked like you, scary and big and strong. They were all, yeah.
Oh,
you know.
I don't know what you're
And
talking about.
they were all, but they weren't fighters. They were just like we were talking about earlier, cosmetic. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just
Aesthetically pleasing.
They wanted to be. They wanted to scare you into thinking that they were scary, but they, you know,
Because that way they don't have to fight.
And what's funny is
There's a lot of guys like that.
Yeah,
it's
me
always
too.
the guys with the bad attitudes that can't fight.
Right.
Whereas the guys who look like you and are kind, you're like, I probably kick my butt, you know? And anyway, we were at this at this party, and it was a wedding reception. And they were making me and my wife really uncomfortable to a point where I was like, I'm getting us out of here because this looks dangerous. And this little tiny guy walks up and he goes, "Hey guys, what's going on? Why are you leaving so early?" And we're like, "Because these guys are scary. It doesn't feel comfortable." And he goes, "Screw them. I could beat all them." And I'm like, "You can beat all them?" And he's like, "Oh yeah. My name is Jason." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And he's come to find out, you know, great competitor in jiu-jitsu. We start talking and he's like, "You watch UFC or anything?" And I said, "Yeah, I love the UFC. I love, you know, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I like arm bars and triangles." He goes, "You should come try jiu-jitsu." And I said, "I'm going to someday." And he goes, "No, Monday." It's like, I will. And he said, no, Monday. And I showed up on Monday and it was, I've never done anything like it.
I love how he just, like, he said that. You showed the fuck up.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
now I always tell people, I'm like, "You should come try it sometime." They're like, "Oh, I'd love to." And I say, "Monday."
Hell yeah.
Monday. It's
Nobody ever shows up like I did. I'm like, come on,
Yeah.
how did he do it? That it was just Monday.
But it's pretty incredible that
Yeah.
you had that situation and then the Brandon situation where like the ripple effect of like something so small
All comes back in.
Something
Comes back
so
into
small.
play.
Like those guys had no clue you were watching that day when he broke up that fight. He didn't know you were watching. He
Right.
didn't know. I mean, and that led you all the way through. Like it's crazy.
Here it is. And then, so I went Monday. I had this coach named BT, Brian Tidwell. He's the head coach at Nashville MMA, and he's under Sean. He was a black belt under Sean Hammonds, and BT's like a $140 soaking wet. And I just watched him destroy everybody.
Just a dog.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And without even trying. Not aggressive. He don't lift weights.
Dude, I need to get out there, even if it's just like once a week.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Have you ever trained with
Mike.
Chandler?
Oh, I've been in the building with him. I've never gotten to roll with him.
I was just curious.
No.
That's a good get.
He's a good guy.
Yeah,
I
he
like that guy
does.
a lot.
He seems like a super down to earth dude.
Yep.
I saw him at the airport not long ago. I just made eye contact with him. And I was just like,
And then
Yeah,
Mike
that's
ran.
all I did.
He ran the
Yeah,
other way.
right.
Mike was like, "Oh
I'm
my
out,
god."
I'm out, yeah.
Mike was like, "Here's my belt."
What's crazy about
he's a good
him
dude.
that people don't know that when he got to the UFC, he had bad injuries for a long time. Like he's got bad knees, and I think it's knees. He's got a lot of shit.
I feel
but
that.
Looking at the UFC, they're like, "Oh, look at this!" Like he's new to the
Yeah,
UFC,
new.
but like he's very late in his career.
Yeah.
He's Anyways,
Such a good dude.
I hope he gets that Connor fight. By the way,
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'd love for him to be able to retire with that for sure.
yeah, and he could. He definitely could.
Definitely.
All right, my man.
Cool.
So
I got lucky. Started training under BT.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I try to remember where we were leaving
nice.
off. I got lucky. BT took me under his wing. I did some competing in jiu-jitsu. I hate it. So I actually stopped. The pressure of thinking about competing would ruin my appetite, my sleep, my business performance, my relationships. And some people are really good at it and they love that. I didn't. So I finally, when I took that off the table for myself, I started loving the sport even more, because then I was like, cool, I'm training for this thing for me, and to use it for whatever I might have to use it for, whether it's on the street or even just being in here to do it for, you know, the mental benefits of it. And I didn't have to put the pressure of going to be on stage anymore, because I wasn't playing with the band. I didn't want the stage anymore. You know what I mean? I just wanted to do things that made me feel good.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because I think it makes me reflect on like the bare knuckle stuff, right? I go in these small settings in the woods, and like, to me, I gain so much out of that. The pressure of thinking about getting up on like, I got enough going on anyways. Like, I got my focus, right? But the pressure of like the combination of everything I'm doing here on top of trying to prepare for something like that would like put me over the freaking edge.
It's just,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I just enjoy it.
Well, and that's kind of the thing, is there's a lot of like accountants and bankers that they have kind of not stagnant lives, but they need that outlet. They need some place to be able to go have that cheer.
Yeah.
And even when I walked into your building earlier and you opened one door and it's like, oh my gosh, there's a podcast studio, and then here's a weight room, and here's a massage chair, and then the next room, here's ice and cryo and ice plunging, and then there's this beautiful gym in the back. Like, your head has enough things. Like, I understand why some people, they're so busy that they don't really have the time and capacity to go spend all this time training and then going to a tournament and sacrificing everything that they've got going in order to focus on that little tournament. Like, I get that.
And then I got a family that's, I want to be a good husband and father.
Sure.
Yeah.
So be there for them.
I don't want to be absent any more than I already am.
Sure. Yeah.
So, there's all those things to consider. But at the end of the day, people need that outlet. Like you said, like, they love getting out there competing. They got lives. Not necessarily saying they're bored with their career.
Yeah.
Maybe they like their career, but like, they need that other outlet. My dad, for example, not a combat guy, but he's always been executive, like trucking business and stuff like that. And, that is what it is. But he loves doing Ironman competitions, and like, that takes a lot of effort.
He's insane.
But he's a beast. And at 6 years old, did the world championship, right? But he loves pushing himself in that way. And I'm like, but you see that correlation right there. So it's pretty gnarly.
But I know exactly what you're talking about, because like boxing, I've fallen off on my boxing training, and part of it is because because of that. I'm like I talk shit to myself because I've trained boxing competitively for like a couple of years. At the point that I'm at now, I've fallen off of it, but I haven't taken a bout. And so I'm like, I feel weird even telling people that I even like box, because I'm like, whoa, well, have you? I'm like, no. And then like in my head, I'm like, well, why am I going in here? I'm not even a part of a competition team at the moment. But then I go in there, and then you're like, oh yeah,
that's the thing. But training, the action of doing that is for yourself.
And that's something I'm discovering as well.
Because most of the people that are going to ask you if you're getting in the ring probably aren't even training.
Right.
No, exactly. They just want to be like, oh yeah, what's your record?
Yeah, exactly.
No, what do you train?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I could relate to the other side of that. So that's actually interesting to hear, because it's like, yeah, that's true. That's why I should do it too.
Yep.
But so you're training under him, BT, right? And
training under BT, and then Sean opened this new gym recently called HQ, which is in Berry Hill, and it's it's massive. It's about to have our 1 year anniversary, and built it from scratch, like just kind of on a whim. He had separated from the gym that he created with Ed Clay in National MMA. Like they parted ways, and
is that when Ben came into the picture?
When who?
Ben.
No, actually, Ben is one of Sean Hammond's black belts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Sean needed his own gym again, and he had the financial backing to do so.
Gotcha.
I'm sure he prayed about it a lot, and his wife probably said hell no, and so he said, I guess I should. And he did it, and it was scary, and now it's amazing. I mean, I was in there yesterday, and there's like 40 some people on the mat at all times, and but that's one of the things that has just like has stayed consistent, where even when the music falls off, I'm there. And when I was going through the divorce, I turned to jiu-jitsu, and there's something about martial arts. It really is. It's good for you. It really is good for you. So, and in doing so, it made my confidence different, where, I was going through a divorce, and I was like, I need to figure something out. And I called the pastor who married my ex-wife and I was like, look, I'm really struggling with this divorce. What do I do? And he's like, I need you to come are you comfortable coming into the jail? And I was like, what? And he said, well, I've got this thing going on in the jail with some inmates. Would you like to be involved? And so, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. So, and not because I was a badass at jujitsu, but just because it changes. So you don't think about a lot of people might get scared right off the bat of the idea of being surrounded by inmates. But for me, it was more so just like, oh yeah, not everybody's trying to fight. And if you do fight, it's not, I'm not going to fight in the prison system. It's going to be fine. So I went in and saw this thing, and it was called the Church of Another Chance. And it was basically an inmate led church service where, this guy had formed this nonprofit where every, Thursday, we would go in and he would have like a different speaker, a guest speaker who would give a sermon, but then all the other ancillary positions, like somebody to take the offering, somebody to read scripture, was all delegated to another inmate. So it was like all these, literally just sitting around next to inmates having this church service. Most of them didn't want to be there, but they didn't want to be in their cells. So they could get out for an hour and a half or whatever. And that was my volunteer job. And I was like, what do you want me to be involved in? What do you want me to do? And he goes, I just want you to play guitar. Let these guys do praise and worship music, but you accompany them. Is that okay? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And then it became Nick, we want you to, tell them your story and tell them your drug addiction and how you were institutionalized for the same thing. And then share some of your songs. So I started doing that. COVID shut it down. And when it reopened, they said, do you want to come back behind bars again? And I said, I absolutely would, but I'd like to do it this time with exercise. Is that a possibility? And they said, sure. So instead of going in and playing music, I go in with inmates, and it's at the behavioral care center, which is mostly people that have a propensity for addiction. Like they've got numerous, their rap sheet is basically for drugs or theft and stuff like that that usually comes from drugs. But at the root of that is dopamine, right? Everybody in there is in there because they were trying to find that hit, that hit of dopamine, which, we do it with coffee, we do it with food, we do it with sex, we do it with all kinds of things. But these guys happen to get caught. And I was like, I want to show them what exercise did for me. Yeah. And so you get these guys that are in there and they've now withdrawn from their drugs because they're in this facility. And most of them are kind of on antidepressants now, which is a very synthetic way of feeling good. But you get them to do basic movements with resistance bands and stuff because they won't let me take weights in. But watching these guys do like I'll put some resistance bands on a doorknob, and then we'll go to the other side and they can do like chest flies. You get them to about 20 of those and you see their eyes change. And then you do a little tricep extension, and then you make them do like a bench dip on the only chair that they have in the yard. And man, they get hits of dopamine. Yeah. And you watch these people that are like junkies for whatever dopamine they can find, and they're finally like finding that thing again. I don't think when they discharge and they finally leave the jail, I'm sure I'm not going to run into them like at, a CrossFit gym or anything. But in the moment, it's making them feel better. Yeah. And so I asked the director, I said, hey, I'd like to do this 5 days a week if that's possible. If I could create a nonprofit that would help fund it, would you be willing to let me do this? And he said, yes. So that's where we are. We call it Kintsugi Kinetics. And it's, Kintsugi is the Japanese art form of repairing broken pottery with platinum or silver or gold, right? They paint that. Yes. So this broken pottery is actually worth more after it's broken and has been repaired. And that's the whole goal, is to let these guys know, like, look, get your workout in. You feel good in here. This doesn't define you.
Bro, that's so
stint
rad.
that you're doing here.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be hitting you up for it. You already know.
Dude, I'm like, I've already taken a note, like, how do I get involved?
Yeah. So it's kintsugikinetics.org. All the links will be up on ToneUp, personaltraining.com. But we're still in the application process for the nonprofit. But I got this little cool board that we've set up, and we're hoping that it'll be launched, early at the spring at the very latest. But already we're taking donations that they can't be written off yet because we haven't gotten the acceptance, but where we're going in and taking pizza parties and, Chick-fil-A, and we're having a big Thanksgiving feast. Most of these guys, and a lot of them have been homeless their entire lives, or at least their entire adult lives. And they've never had much of anything. And this director, Eric Bowder, who created the BCC, he's letting us throw feasts in there and like really give these guys some hope, some love. And we're not rewarding criminal activity. You know what I mean? These guys who've paid their dues and they're on their way out already. They've paid their sentence. They're square with the state. We're just trying to get them to a point where they understand, hey, before you get out of here, before you go turn to that other drug, just think about this thing that feels really good. And
there's
what
more
if
on
you
the
can
outside.
find, dude, yep. And there's the other resources, trying to find them housing and halfway houses and stuff like that. So,
dude, I got a shirt that says, I put out early on, says addicted to greatness on the back.
Yeah.
And, that stems from my early, drug use with Xanax and Klonopins and shit like that. But it's like, there's nothing wrong with being an addict. But it's all about where you place that addiction.
Truth.
So get addicted to great shit.
Truth.
And like, I'm still an addict, but I'm addicted to things that are only going to benefit me in my life moving forward, And that's the idea. And if you can get them to focus on that, man, there's a whole new world on the outside for those guys.
Exactly right.
Everybody, and everybody should have some hope, man, and be able to do better.
I agree.
Well, I think that's a beautiful thing that you just said, because you do talk about your addiction a lot, but you'll hear like Matthew Perry just passed, and whenever he would do interviews, he would say, "I am an addict." Like he would say that.
Yeah.
He was like, "I still am. I haven't had a drink in fucking however long." But it's interesting to hear, because I'm sure I don't know, maybe it's not, but that may at one time have been a difficult thing to say. Like that this is true, but now I know what to do with it. So even just saying that out
do you
loud,
channel it?
I think is awesome.
Yeah, when your mom is telling you back that you have a problem, that's when I was in denial about it. And I don't. I can stop the stuff whenever I want. It wasn't until I started stopping that I actually realized, oh man, I have an addictive personality and I get hooked on everything.
Well, it's even Lydia said, I mean, she's like, one night I was kind of stressing about not training or something like that. And I really needed it, man. It's such an outlet, right?
Yeah.
And, but she was like, she's like, you're definitely an addict. Like you're addicted to getting your burpees in and all that shit. And she's like, but that's a good thing. And I'm like, I mean,
right.
At least if I'm addicted to something, that's what it's known for. That's great.
Trading the bad addictions for good habits.
Exactly.
That's the key.
Well, I've also, in the book that I talk about sometimes, Think and Grow Rich, they talk about, there's a chapter that's about sex, actually, which is interesting. But
I wouldn't know anything about that. I'm actually still a virgin.
Yeah, that stuff is gross.
Yeah.
But he basically talks about like how
Heard
you have to transmute, like it's about transmuting energy, and it's kind of about like what we're talking about. It's like basically his point is that like a lot of people will have like passion stifled, or like you're too much for somebody. Like you get really hype about jiu-jitsu and somebody's like, hey, whoa, like you're getting. But his point was that passion in anything is an indicator of passion in general. So like with the addiction thing, it's like you were addicted, like you said, to a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing if applied to the right spot, because you're going to go 110% into it more than anybody would. Right. So it's like, I think that's an interesting
That's a good point.
Parallel.
100%.
Yep.
You said that you were institutionalized.
Yeah.
Did we pass over that part? Or?
I might have skipped over it quickly. Yeah. While I was in college, I said I dropped out of school. Dropped out was a friendly term for got booted out of my school. Yeah, I wasn't doing really well one semester, and I was on a lot of drugs. And I actually showed up to the provost's office and said, "Hey, I don't want to go to school here anymore, but I don't want to be charged either. So I need you to go ahead and withdraw me." And I was wearing a white thermal, like it was probably similar to Affliction. Affliction wasn't around, but it was. I think the brand. Anyway, it had that same kind of design on it, but it was a white thermal, and there was just a lot of blood on the wrist because I had pseudo attempted to, honestly, like I didn't make very deep gashes. I was cutting myself for some kind of alleviation. I didn't feel much. I was on a bunch of pills. And as I was telling her she needed to withdraw me from the university, she said, "Nick, what is that?" And she had reached across the table to grab my hand to comfort me and pulled up my sleeve. And she goes, "We need to get you some help." She took me to the infirmary and put me in this little room, and a nurse came in and checked my blood pressure and stuff. And after she checked my blood pressure, she stepped out, and I started opening the drawers to see what else was in there, whether it was pills or I don't really even know what I was looking for because I was on drugs. And the next thing I knew, I was slammed against the wall and told to put my hands behind my back, and they cuffed me, and I waited for them to bring a gurney in. They handcuffed me to a gurney and wheeled me through my university campus right as all the classes were getting out. It was so humiliating.
So why did they?
Well, because I was a threat to myself, involuntary. So they took me to a psych ward called 5 West, and it was supposed to be a 14-day stint initially. And I think by like day 8, I had talked one of the nurses into letting me go because my band had a show and I was good. I was fine. I was going to be sober. I don't up with hope, down with dope. I don't want drugs no more. I've seen the light. Please let me out. You got to let me out. I promise I'm never going to do this again. Let me out.
And she was like, damn right.
And that same night, back on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Gotcha.
and that was the first time. Yeah.
I just wanted to like make sure that we touched on that part.
And you know, the fact that you bring that up, that's one of the things where I remember how dark and lonely it is when you're an addict and you're like, I'm around all these people all the time trying to party, and then they institutionalize you to make you withdraw from drugs. And it's like these white rooms and it's a hospital. It's just terrible. It's lonely and it's awful and it's sad. So that's why I really want to be part of that now, like on a daily basis, to be able to be in the system and bring whatever, you know, I say hope. It sounds kind of cheesy, but just let people know like there's light on the outside. It's going to get better.
Well, and be proactive in a different way, because that's the thing is, you know, they have all these homeless shelters everywhere, right? And then guess what? They just built another homeless shelter. And it's like, well, obviously the same thing isn't working.
Right.
You know, and same thing with the institutions, right? But you've been there. It's grim. It didn't really do anything for you. Except
Nobody ever
you want to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, nobody ever talked to me about nutrition and exercise the whole time either.
How can we be proactive and actually help people? And there's so many ways we can do that, especially, you know, and it's showing through what the work you're doing. So I'm pumped. I'm going to get involved.
I appreciate that.
If you'd allow me.
Yep. You will be. You will be.
For sure,
I'll be knocking on the door a lot. You too, Logan. Hey. Don't you be hiding.
I'm about it.
I'll be like, Logan, goddammit. But well, one thing I want to ask, you know, I know we're getting towards the end here.
You got about 12 minutes.
Sweet. I am curious. So what brought you into being a dive master, and also, you know, and bridge into the firearms instructing?
Yeah. So when I was in college and before all the drugs, before my dad had passed, I took scuba diving as an elective in New Mexico, where there is no body of water to be found anywhere. But that's where I started. So I got my open water. You said you became advanced just a couple years ago, right? Yeah,
back in 2017.
Yeah. So that's where I got my first taste of it and was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
It's pretty damn fun.
It's pretty different. And nothing else can follow you underwater. And I was like, this is cool. And I suck at it. So it's one of those things where I was like, I don't want to suck at this. I want to be better at it. How come all these other people are able to just go put their face underwater and go breathe without panicking? Why is it so hard for me? I'm going to figure it out. It's that anxious attachment. I'm going to address it. I'm going to conquer it. And so I got certified then, and then I don't know, 20 years later, 19 years later, just decided I needed to pick that back up because I had never really done anything with it. Got certified, did my checkout dives, and then really didn't dive much. And got here, saw that there were like quarries and lakes and groups that go on trips. And I kept going out to the Florida Keys for a songwriter festival, and I wasn't diving. And I was like, I need to pick this back up. So
will you explain just for the layman's what exactly you're talking about diving?
Scuba diving. Yeah. Scuba diving. Yeah. Just putting on it. Yeah. If you want to gain her off of a cliff, man. No.
But as a sport, as something you could be certified in, like,
it's just recreational. You can't rent gear or be out in most of these bodies of water without a certification. Okay, they don't allow you to go. Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha. So I just wanted to be good at it, and then I wanted to be better. And, the more I did it, the more I liked it. And I got involved with a shop here that was just like, hey, the next step is this. The next step is this. And I was like, God, that seems challenging. And the next thing I knew, I was a master diver and a dive master, which master diver is the highest you can get in a recreational sense of diving. And then a dive master is the professional sense. So you get a dive master number that you take with you for the rest of your life. You're a professional diver, which oddly enough, I have tattooed on my thigh so that when I go through certain situations, I can look down and remember like that dive master test is something scary. And if you were able to, it's called the dive master stress test. I was like, well, if you got through that, you can get through quite a bit. So
what is it?
Can you elaborate?
Your dive instructor takes you underwater, and you have to exchange gear with one regulator, taking turns on one regulator. So you both go down with the same amount of gear, but you swap everything out. But one person's not holding their breath, because you're constantly letting air out. Rule number one is never hold your breath. But so you're exchanging this regulator, and then at some point during that process, you're completely without anything, and you're reaching for air. and you're breathing, which it seems a lot easier than it actually is when you're trying not to let water rush in your nose and there's no visibility and you're still trying to breathe on this thing. And then just take your allotted number of breaths and hope that your guy's good over there and you're still assembling this gear back on. It's actually really stressful. And you can find it on YouTube.
Panic factor you were talking about.
Panic factor, yeah. And it stressed me out a lot getting ready to do it. But, once it was done. And the thing about scuba diving is most people don't know this. Everybody thinks it's this simple thing. You get to a certain depth, which is basically any depth, you can't shoot to the top.
No.
The whole concept of people thinking, if I have an error here, I'm just going to hold my breath and you can't.
That'll
you get the bends, you die, you explode your organs. There's all kinds of things. So you have to learn how to troubleshoot underwater. So anything that's catastrophic that could possibly happen has to be dealt with, that panic situation. You don't get to go to the surface and take a breath of air. The air is either on you or it's on the person who should be close enough to you. It's a really stressful situation to learn how to replicate that.
Yeah, there's a lot that can go wrong.
Yeah,
I was
for
gonna
sure.
say,
So
I knew it could make you sick if you come up too
Oh,
soon.
it'd
but
kill you.
Yeah, I didn't
kill
know
you.
that.
In fact, one of the men that I dived with, he was younger than me, but he was out diving with his godmother at one point. He had just become a rescue diver because that's one of the steps to becoming a master diver, and she signaled that she wanted to go a little bit deeper, and he was like, I don't want to go any deeper. It's cold. Because, every 15 feet or something, there's a thermocline where it just gets nipply. So she went down a little bit deeper, and he said he was watching her, and all of a sudden she just shot straight up like a submarine. They don't know if she had a panic attack or what, but by the time she got up to the top, just the organs push through your lungs and perish.
Is that the pressure coming back? Like what?
Yeah, because all air expands as it rises up. So if you take a balloon at the surface and then you start dragging it down, you get to 15 feet already and that balloon's collapsed.
Right.
You go any further and it's tiny. So on the way back up, it has to expand. So if you're down, you go down several feet, 20 feet, 25 feet, 30 feet, especially when you start looking at deeper dives at 100 feet, and you take even the smallest sip of air, if you hold your breath and rise to the surface, that becomes 20 times the size, and it just
blows out your organs?
Blows your lungs out.
Shit.
Insane.
yeah, I know when we did my advanced, we took a bag of chips down and it was just like
Crushed it.
and then we brought it back up and we were able to eat the chips.
Yeah. Oh,
really?
I was like, that's pretty cool. But it
is
looked
cool.
like it was just like this thing that was all just like this ball.
Yeah, it's nutty. And then the night it messes with your brain too. So that's just the organs there. But when you're down underwater breathing, then you have all these. It's not air is nitrogen and it's oxygen, and you've got these gases that are absorbing into your bloodstream. So when you shoot to the top and that expands too quickly as well, without being able to circulate through the system or absorb through tissue, that's how you get the bends. And then
Is that fatal as well?
people fry their brains. Yeah.
Damn.
Yep. Yes, that's the thing which is really scary when you, as a dive master or an instructor, you're taking these people out, and those are the scariest ones. Are the people that go out and they're just like, they put the mask on, they put in their regulator, and they just jump in and they don't think about anything. You're like, you're gonna get me killed. It's the people that are more scared and that are hyper aware of their own mortality. Those are the people that.
So that's why I asked the diving question, by the way.
Yeah.
Good for you.
For all of those things, because that's all news to me. That's
I got
fantastic.
lucky. I had this lady named Sarah Rich. She was really good because I had bad anxiety trying to figure it out because I'm hyper aware. I was like, I don't want to do drugs anymore. I don't want to die. I've taken all my chances. I don't want to do scuba diving and end up dying. So she was real cool with my anxiety and got me to where I was, like single-handedly. She was responsible for that. And the firearm stuff, during COVID, right before COVID, I was like, I was shooting 3-gun competitions, which is rifle, shotgun, pistol. You run through a course and you switch between firearms, right? I was doing that quite a bit. And I just was like, you know what? My brother-in-law is the SWAT captain in New Mexico, and he said, you can make some money actually teaching people how to shoot better, right? And I was like, yeah, but I'm not law enforcement or military. He goes, Nick, you shoot better than law enforcement and military. You can make money off this. So he gave me, more lessons, turned me into, I don't want to say I'm a good shooter because that would be really cocky, but I'm a pretty good shooter.
Yeah.
And so I went through the process of becoming an NRA instructor and then a Tennessee State instructor, and opened a handgun school, which I still have, and it's active currently. And I issue permits, and that's how that came about.
Sweet, dude.
Did you do like close quarters combat stuff at all?
Yeah.
Like, with the
Gotcha. Yeah, and you know, home clearing and stuff, applicable stuff for civilians, like what to do in a movie theater, assuming that you're allowed to have a firearm in a movie theater. Most of the time, it's frowned upon and forbidden. I still do it. No, I would never.
Yeah, I would never either.
Never. Yeah, no.
God forbid. I'm in a dark room where somebody can creep
right.
into and trap me.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
You can't get out.
I'll just be like, hey, not me.
Please.
Let me out of the aisle.
And it would never happen in a movie theater,
Never.
right?
Dude.
Come on, man.
You blind him with popcorn butter.
That's it.
Can't
That's
think of a
it.
single time.
So
Crazy.
You know, and I don't know. I think it's pretty cool, man. That's badass. I'm pretty sure I saw a video of you shooting and you like twisted it and it went around.
Oh yeah, if you whip it by wrist and it goes around the corner. You're talking
about bending a bullet?
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I can do it.
I was
bro.
like, whoa.
No.
I was for sure that was not real, but if it is, I got to learn it.
Eyes closed. Yep.
We gotta let Logan
for sure.
believe it. He's like,
Hey,
holy shit.
hold this apple in your mouth. I'm gonna show you. Right here. Yeah.
It's a great movie, by the way. Wanted. Great movie.
So that being said, we've touched on a lot of things today.
Yep.
And honestly, you definitely underplayed your.
You undersold the shit out of yourself.
Undersold yourself. Yeah. Very humble.
You lost a bunch of followers today based on this.
They're like, dude, like our subscribers go down
blocked your
like
account.
half.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn it.
Yep. Blame
All right.
Cassie.
Thanks. Yeah. Cassie, it's your fault. It started with you.
Yep.
No. Cassie is awesome. But and I think that's really cool how that was the connection, man.
Yep.
It still blows my mind.
It's weird. Like Dylan to Alex to Gage.
Yeah, just
who
all
made your hat for your wedding. Like just weird shit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how like just things connect, man. If you just
Is it weird?
No, I mean it's supposed to happen, right? And that's the thing. Like that's why I don't really get. I don't know, man.
It's
I just kind of let
fascinating
things
for
flow.
sure.
Wonderful.
It's
Yeah,
fascinating.
follow
It's
my
cool.
heart with it.
Yep.
And but there's one thing I want to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Ask everybody, what is your relentless pursuit?
Man, I feel like I spent so much time serving myself for my first 38 years. Now I'm trying to figure out how I can become better for more than myself. And that's constantly the goal.
Make an impact.
I would love to. I would love to be able to, as I, everybody's always chasing growth. I would love for it to not just be for myself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, as those two things run together.
I was going to say,
Your growth
rising
and
tide.
the impact on others.
Right.
That's the goal, man.
Yeah.
Love it. Well said. And Nick, it's been awesome having you here.
Man,
I mean, you got a very
pleasure.
fascinating story. You've been through a lot of shit, and it's just really rad how everything kind of circles back around, like these different parts of your life, and you remember them all so specifically and in detail. And I think that was really cool. I was able to just sit back and listen to most of it, and you carried it very well. So thank you for coming on, man. It's been
my
an honor.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Hell yeah. And y'all stay tuned. Nick's probably going to be back just to talk about a bunch of other shit at some point. Because I could see us just carrying on about a million different things.
Cool.
So, and
Does Logan have to come?
Ha!
I won't tell him we're here.
Damn.
Just kidding.
And no time to defend myself either. Just got to cut it out on that too. Jesus.
But anyways, thank you for coming, man. You got anything to say before we
No,
exit?
thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. And Logan, seriously, you as well. Appreciate you guys keeping the conversation going. I had no idea that I had wanted to talk that much.
Hell yeah, man.
There it is.
Good deal. Hell yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks, Logan.
We'll see you guys next time.
Good stuff, dude.